Hello.
Good afternoon.
It's great to have you here. I am going to get us kicked off in just a second. But I want to thank everybody who's joined the Google Hangout for joining us today on America's College Promise Act. Congressman Bobby Scott, my former colleague, my friend, so good to have you joining all of us again today. Also want to welcome Chancellor Sandeen, President Albrecht, and Maggie Thompson for joining us today. I'm just going to say a few words and then kick it over to our other colleagues before we start taking some answers from Twitter. So we're gathered here today because we all believe that every student in America deserves a fair shot at a higher education and clear paths to the middle class, which is why I am so proud to be joined by Congressman Scott today as we this week introduced America's College Promise Act. Higher education should obviously be a path to prosperity and not a path to suffocating debt, as so many students have faced in recent years. And with this legislation, a full-time equivalent community college student could save as much as $3,800 per year. I shouldn't say as much as, on average, $3,800 per year. The opportunity to gain the skills and the knowledge that they need to succeed in our global 21st century high skills economy. This common sense legislation not only makes higher education more affordable, but it helps create new opportunities for all Americans. The America's College Promise Act ensures that programs offer academic credits that are fully transferable to four-year institutions in their state, or occupational training that leads to credentials in an in-demand industry. The bill is a key component to that idea of investing in job training, apprenticeship, and help hardworking people earn the skills that they need for a new job or a better paying job. And I'm really proud that our legislation takes a really critical step to strengthen workforce readiness as well as strengthen our economy. Now, I would like to turn the Hangout over to my friend, Congressman Bobby Scott. Bobby Scott represents Virginia's 3rd Congressional District, and of course he serves as the ranking member on the House Committee on Education and Workforce. And so, Bobby, why don't you take it over for now, and then we'll hear from all of our fellow panelists.
And our colleagues in the Senate and outside groups to develop the President's plan for free community college and make that a reality. And so yesterday we introduced the America's College Promise, or ACP, and we recognize that the jobs of the future will require education past the high school level, not necessarily a 4-year degree, but some education and training past the high school level. And the community colleges are ideal to meet this need because they can provide not only academic 4-year college baccalaureate style education for the first 2 years, they can also provide great technical education. So making community college free gives people the opportunity to get the education past the high school level very, very efficiently. If we're going to compete on a global marketplace, we have to make sure that we have a well-educated workforce. And that's what the President has noticed, that we need to make the 2 years of community college level education as universal as high school is today. So under Title I of ACP, first-time college students can attend college for free in states that participate with the program. The participation will require a 25% match, but 75% will be paid by the federal government. The value of this program is about $3,800 a year, and when fully implemented, we expect at least 9 million students at 1,300 community colleges to get a high-quality post-secondary education at a greatly reduced cost. Now, there's a second title of the bill that's also very exciting, and that creates a path for low-income students to attend some four-year institutions of higher education at a reduced cost. Under this title, first-time low-income students can have tuition and fees for their first 2 years of college reduced at a historically black college or university or other minority-serving institutions. The money that would flow before, on this program flows before a Pell Grant, so those who are eligible for Pell will be able to use that money for living expenses so they can attend school full time. This has the potential in the Section 2 of the bill, so the second title of the bill, to help about at least 300,000 students attend the 280 minority-serving institutions. Now, I'm happy to join Senator Baldwin in this effort. I look forward to hearing from her and other guests about the importance of making community college level education as universal as high school is today.
Thank you so much, Congressman Scott. I would like to next call on Chancellor Sandeen, Chancellor of the University of Wisconsin Colleges. I am so delighted to have you with us, Chancellor.
Thank you, Senator. I'm delighted to be here as well. Thanks for including us. This issue is very important to me. I myself am a first-generation college graduate, and I would not be sitting here if it weren't for my post-secondary education. I care deeply about the issue of access, and I thank you and your colleagues for putting forward this act. It's very important. The UW colleges, University of Wisconsin colleges, are the high access arm of the University of Wisconsin system. We are a group of 13 two-year liberal arts transfer colleges that really focus on the access mission within Wisconsin. Most of our students are first-generation college students. Most of them are low income. We have a high percentage of Pell students. So as you can see, our students will really benefit from this additional funding. We appreciate it. We're a little bit different in Wisconsin, as you know, Senator Baldwin, because in our two-year institutions, we have two different systems. One is the technical vocational college system, and then the UW colleges, where we really focus on the transfer mission. I think this is a great advantage for Wisconsin because each system is very focused on their purpose and have great results. For example, for us, we have a very high first to second year retention rate, something in the range of 80% of our students stick with us and do not drop out. We also have a very high transfer rate. 77% of our students transfer on to a four-year institution, either within Wisconsin or other places. We're very proud of that record, and we think that we can provide this wonderful education to even more students. So I thank you, Senator Baldwin, and your staff for making sure the language in the Act referred to two-year institutions so that we could be included in this important program as well. And kudos to you for including the minority-serving institutions the first 2 years. That was really something that was a happy surprise to me. As you know, affordability and student success and student completion are the most important issues facing us in higher education today. And your act obviously addresses affordability and access, but I was really pleased to see that it also addresses success and completion, and that's in the issue of articulated pathways and guaranteed transfer. And I also saw something about promoting key reforms to accelerate student success. I think that's critical. Success and completion together will get us where we need to go. And I hope that the UW colleges might be part of the conversation and maybe could provide some insight and best practices that we use to achieve our great success. As you know, this is a partnership between the federal government and the states, and our state of Wisconsin, we're having our financial challenges, but I assure you that I will work diligently to convince our citizens that this is something that's very important for them to be part of the partnership so that we can provide students in our state with the benefits of America's College Promise. So thank you for including me in this.
Oh, thank you so much for your insights, your input. We're going to continue to rely on that, and stay tuned. We're going to have some questions following the presentations. I think, Congressman Scott, you want to make the next introduction?
I'd be happy to. I'd like to introduce Dr. Claude Perkins, who is the 12th president of Virginia Union University. He has an excellent background in education, having previously served in administrative positions at Albany State University and served as superintendent of schools in Las Vegas, Nevada, and Kansas City, Missouri, and also served in the administration in my district in Richmond, Virginia. He has a doctorate from The Ohio University, a master's from Purdue, and a bachelor's degree from Mississippi Valley State University. So we're just delighted to have Dr. Perkins with us today. Dr. Perkins?
Thank you, Congressman Scott. How are you today?
Thank you. Good to see you.
Well, we're delighted to be a part of this discussion, and also I'd like to thank you and the Senator and the other persons who have a great deal of interest in this matter. Virginia Union University is the oldest historically African-American college in the South, and we're part of the UNCF institutions that represent about 39 universities. As you mentioned, the minority-serving institutions serve over 300,000 students in America, and many of these students come from moderate to low-income backgrounds, and access and opportunity is a critical value that we all have. Recently, we experienced severe reductions in support for our students because of certain rules that came about associated with Parent Plus. This idea of the American College Promise is indeed revolutionary. It will provide serious opportunities for us to continue to keep that spigot open to produce middle-class citizens and persons who are going to make outstanding contributions to American society. And I'm glad that the minority-serving institutions have been included within the mix. Also, I think that if you look at the record is very clear that many of our institutions are low-cost institutions, and they've been in this business for a very long time, presenting high-quality education at low cost. And the cost factor is a factor that's still challenging for many of our students. So the support through this and through your help and the Senator, we hope that this revolutionary piece would be something similar to what happened years ago when Sputnik went up. And we decided it was time to make a difference in science education, and all of a sudden the National Science Foundation began to do some very important things to produce some of the most outstanding science that's in America. So we hope that this will provide an opportunity for many of our students to continue their education, to not have to deal with the drop out and drop back in process that most have to go through in order to get through college. So we're delighted that this is on the board, and we look forward to continuous dialogue and participation in seeing that this become a reality.
Thank you, Dr. Perkins. Next, I would like to recognize Dr. Brian Albrecht, president of Gateway Technical College in Kenosha, Wisconsin. I'm blessed today, and why don't you kick it, or why don't you go ahead, President Albrecht? Albrecht, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Senator Baldwin. It's a pleasure to be with all of you today, and I appreciate, like the others, the opportunity to share a few thoughts on why this initiative is so important to the residents and the students of Southeast Wisconsin, and I would say across the nation. Also, just want to recognize Representative Scott for his leadership, and I want to thank both of you for advancing this important cause. The combination of the legislation and the community discussions that are taking place at the local level are something that I think are of great value and will change, if not the opinions of many people in our community, at least make them much more aware of the value of community and technical colleges. I want to shift my comments just a little bit from the importance of access and affordability to what is something very important to, I think, all of us, but especially here in southeast Wisconsin as it relates to technical education, and that's advancing a jobs-driven economy. We know that the economy is changing as a result of the types of employment opportunities that are available and will continue to be available for our citizens, especially young people. The types of skills that are necessary to stay competitive in the job market today are much more advanced than they were even 5 years ago and certainly 10 years ago. So the idea of continuing education is something that, while it would be a nice thing to talk about, is now a requirement. Our students, when they graduate from high school, must be thinking about lifelong learning and continuing advancing their technical knowledge and skills to stay competitive in the job market. In Kenosha County alone, where our campus is located, we have over 4,700 new jobs this last year. Every one of those jobs have unique skills, but they're all integrated with technology. And so to advance the labor force for our region, it's take a real strong infrastructure of the role of the technical college. And that is not only the retraining of the incumbent workforce, so a lot of people that maybe didn't choose college when they graduated from high school but now are going back, this might give them a greater opportunity and an impetus to really consider what a career path might look like, as well as all those new seniors that have just graduated thinking about what their future might hold for them and how they can stay in their own community and raise a family. And to do that, they need a family supporting wage in a job market that may be beyond their skill level at this point. So we're focused on hoping to leverage this initiative and this legislation to really create a conversation around what the skill levels are to be successful in today's economy. I value very much the components that are included in there, where we consider a matching component and that students have to also be a part of this process. And that's been the same way in education, I think, for a very long time, that the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. So I'm encouraged by the legislation, I'm encouraged by the conversation, and I'm very appreciative of the leadership that both of you and your colleagues have begun to provide for us in Washington. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Albrecht. It's great to have your input, and I hope you'll too be able to hang around for a little while until we get to some questions. But last but not least, I'm very pleased to introduce Maggie Thompson. Maggie is a Wisconsin native, and she's here with Higher Ed, Not Debt. This is a grassroots organization and campaign dedicated to tackling the student debt crisis. And so, Maggie, thank you so much for being part of the conversation today.
Thank you so much for having me. We are just thrilled, Higher Ed Not Debt and all of our partner organizations, to be a part of this conversation. You know, our focus as an organization and the community-based organizations across the country we work with, oftentimes we're talking a lot about the 43 million people in this country that already have student debt. And we're very excited that there are leaders like Senator Baldwin and Representative Scott on this call who are supporting policies to not just help current borrowers, like student loan refinancing or the President's Student Aid Bill of Rights, but also have the foresight and are thinking ahead to how can we really reverse the tide of the student debt crisis. Not just help people who have debt currently, but make sure we have a higher education system that isn't just churning out more students with debt. And I think that this policy is an incredible first step to getting us back to a place where we once were in this country, where higher education was a public good that was affordable and accessible to all. You know, less than a generation ago, community and technical colleges and four-year public universities were affordable and accessible in this country. You know, over the past 30 years and in the Great Recession, cuts were made, states divested in our public higher education system, and that's really what spurred on the student debt crisis that we're seeing. And I think that the reason that this policy is so important is that the institutions that were often bearing the brunt of those cuts were our community colleges, our minority-serving institutions, and HBCUs across the country. So if we're really going to turn the tide on the student debt crisis and make higher education a public good in the United States again, I think this is just an incredible place to begin and really push back. So we're just thrilled to do this, thrilled to support leaders on the federal level working on this, but also we want to take this to the states and really support and push our state legislators to support policies like America's College Promise as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Maggie. Now, I'd like to open it up to questions and advance during today's hashtag America's College Promise tweet storm. And so I want to get right to them. And I think perhaps the first one from Drew Anderson is best directed to Congressman Scott and myself. It says, how will America's College Promise support community colleges in promoting the success of those who enroll? And, Congressman Scott, Bobby, I don't know if you want to kick it off or I can, and then we can keep on going.
Well, one of the things that the ACP will support students by requiring comprehensive student support services like mentoring and advising, accelerating learning opportunities, strengthening remedial education. But the main thing that the program will do is give them access to a no-cost 2-year education. That's extremely important. And so just getting into school will be the best thing that can happen. But it also provides support to the community colleges to support those who may be first in their family to go to college, where college is not a tradition in their family.
Great, thank you. The second question we got is more perhaps of a comment for us to react to. This is from Ryan Holstein, and he says, kids don't want to go to community college. It's viewed almost like tech school. So let's hear from our community college and tech school champions to say, what's the pushback to that? What do you want to say to Ryan?
Well, I'll start. This is Kathy Sandine.
Yes.
We find at the UW colleges, our students are increasingly interested in what we have to offer, and their number one issue goes right to the heart of America's College Promise Act, and that is affordability. We're the most affordable option in the state of Wisconsin, and when they learn that, and then they come and learn about our small class sizes, the quality of our professors, the great results we get in terms of success and transfer, and then they're sold. But it does tend to be more of an advising one-on-one conversation. Marketing efforts really can't tell the whole story in and of themselves.
Yeah, I would agree with Kathy, and I think one of the things I would share with Ryan and others is that we really need to take a good hard look at the data that's behind community and technical colleges. In Wisconsin, over 320,000 residents attend a technical college, so it is the largest higher education institution in the state of Wisconsin, and there's 1,200 community colleges across the country with so many people participating in that venue that there are great opportunities. The other key piece, I think, is to take a look at what the career path is that a person might be trying to strive for. The technical college in Wisconsin has a 90% placement rate, so it's directly linked to job opportunities and career pathways. And many of those programs are articulated with 4-year degree programs, so it is not an ending point. It's a starting point that creates many bridges to future opportunities. Advanced education, directly employment in the workplace, advanced opportunities within your job and career field. So there are so many advantages of why you should consider a community or technical colleges, and I think part of Ryan's comment is really because of what has been identified as a myth of that it's a dead end when you get through it. It's really just the beginning of many opportunities.
Great, thank you. A tweet from Sharon indicates that she wants to hear a little bit more about the provisions related to historical Black colleges. Perhaps even a little bit more about the history of minority-serving institutions. Dr. Perkins, Congressman Scott, do you want to? Dr. Perkins, why don't you start?
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, I'd like to say that the issue of access and opportunity is a very important mission of those institutions that are serving many of the minority students in America. It's part of the mission, and it's been a part of that mission since the inception of the institutions. It's also important to note that how effective the institutions are. If you, for instance, take the historically Black colleges in America, even though it's about 100 or so, 104, and make up about 3% of the college-going population of African American students, but they graduate over 20% of the students who finish the institutions, and of course 24% of those who are going on in the STEMs area have graduated from the historically black colleges. So I think that it's part of the diversity that we have in America. It's things that make our country great the way it is because we offer these different options for our students, and of course the modality of instructional delivery in our schools are normally individualistic and with certain degree of expectations and support from our faculty and staff. So the schools have produced some of America's most outstanding citizens. I don't want to venture to name a lot of them, but most of them who've made contributions in America went to one of the minority serving institutions.
Well, thank you, Tammy, and I'm delighted to add to that. The minority serving institutions have a tradition of serving those who traditionally who are coming from first generation, where college going is not part of the family tradition. They've been very successful in dealing with these. Perhaps we're going to add other colleges in the future, but it gives the opportunity to students to start off at a four-year college or include the four-year college in their community college after the community college. They've traditionally dealt with students who traditionally have not gone to college, and we're trying to get everybody into a higher education track. And so we're going to start with the minority serving institutions because that's their tradition, but it shows that community college is not going to be the end of the consideration. After community college, you have many other options.
Maggie, I think this next question is good for you to tackle. It's it's a tweet from Educators Relief. It says, what about people struggling to pay off student debt right now?
Right. Yeah, the over $1.3 trillion in student debt that we have in this country. No, and I think that this is, this is two sides of the same coin. There are so many policies that we need to get done to help people who are currently struggling with debt. Currently for students, the administration has some great programs that are in place. Pay as you earn is a payment program where you can sort of tie the amount you pay every month to the amount of income you make. It's an income-driven repayment program to help make loan repayment sustainable. Then, of course, there's student loan refinancing. We believe that you should be able to refinance your student loans just like you do a mortgage. Then there's also a series of sort of consumer protections and consumer rights, borrowers' rights that we believe that students paying off loans should have. And a lot of those were wrapped up in the President's Student Aid Bill of Rights. So there are policies, some are in place, there are a lot more that we need to get done. But, as I said at the top, I think that there's a lot to do to help the current 43 million people who have student debt. But if we wipe that existing $1.3 trillion off the board right now and forgave it all, we still have a system that's turning out more and more graduates with ever-increasing amounts of debt. So we need to think about current borrowers, but we also need to figure out how do we fix the system and make higher good a public good again. And it's something that's accessible to all.
Thank you. The next tweet we have is from Lucas, and Lucas says, we need the America's College Promise Act, but Pell Grant should not be eliminated for community college students. And I think I'll just tackle that one really quickly. We have designed America's College Promise Act as a first dollar program. And what we mean by that expression is that students will remain eligible for other forms of financial aid, and that certainly includes Pell Grants. So we certainly can provide greater information. I know we will as the discussion on this bill continues. But it is a first dollar program, and Pell Grants will remain an option. The next tweet is from Rosie, and the question is, how will it benefit tribal colleges and universities? And I'll also start with that, but people should feel free to jump in. I happen to know from my visits to our tribal colleges in the state of Wisconsin that this measure, America's College Promise, will impact tribal colleges in two ways. First of all, if they are two-year community colleges, they will be a part of Title I of the bill. But they are also eligible to participate in the HBCU and MSI programs in Title II of the bill. So real opportunity to benefit in both ways. And I don't know if anyone else wanted to add anything on that particular tweet. Anyone? Okay. The next tweet from Keith says, what do you estimate the average cost per student per year will be?
Well, I can take that, Tammy. The annual benefit will be approximately $3,800. The federal government will be paying about $3 for every dollar put up by the states. The average cost to the student, however, will be a free community college. We've heard comments about Pell Grants. There are other expenses, living expenses, and other expenses that come along with that. So that the Pell Grant is obviously needed to pick up many of those expenses. But the cost of the student will be tuition free. The value of that is estimated to be about $3,800 a year.
So I have another tweet from Melissa, and Melissa asks, how do we change the messaging to show that this is a first step and not an end step? I'm going to let anyone who wants to tackle that, but I think it's such an important question about where we're going in terms of our investment in education and higher education, particularly in America. Who wants to start?
I'll start, Tammy, because we had a previous question that was talking about the tech schools. One of the things about community colleges is you have all kinds of options. A two-year degree in a particular vocation can get you enough education to put you on track for a nice paying job. An academic career can get you on the way the first 2 years of a four-year college. There are a number of different options, and the important thing is under the program we have to make sure that people recognize what all of their options are. One of the main parts of the program is that if you're taking an academic track, not a vocational track in community college, that the credits, the academic credits, should be transferable to a four-year college. So after you've done 2 years, you've actually got 2 years worth of credits for a four-year college. So there's a lot of things in here to make sure that the option of continuing to a four-year bachelor's degree is alive and well. But if you just want a particular training for a particular job, that's available too.
I would add to what Representative Scott said. I think he's done a great job of helping to describe the messaging that needs to take place, and it's really educating our community around the value of community and technical colleges. And when I visit with parents, we often ask the question, how long do you anticipate your son or daughter being in college? And most will say 5 or 6 years. So my comment back is, why don't we upfront the last 2 years of the four-year degree with a community college degree, and earn some skills and get a job, and your employer might even help offset the cost of their baccalaureate degree. So it's a mindset, and I think part of our challenge is that we've chunked education into blocks. So we have a 12-year block, we have a 2-year block, and a 4-year block, and we all realize and probably recognize in our careers now looking back that it's a lifelong process. It doesn't take 2 years, it doesn't take 4 years, it takes many years of a lot of different methods of delivering and receiving education. And if we can help with the access point and the affordability point to get people on that path, it might be 2 year, it might lead to a 4 year, it might lead to a postgraduate degree. And the starting point though is the most critical, to get people on a path, have success, demonstrate how those successes can lead to future opportunities, and in our case that's usually a job opportunity which can provide a living wage, which can provide greater access for their family for education in the future.
I would completely agree with that. I think we're seeing a lot more progress in terms of creating more seamless pathways for students rather than having a system with siloed institutions and degrees. We have a long way to go in this country to increase that credit mobility that we need so badly, but I think that will help people open their eyes to the real potential and benefits of two-year institutions. And also I'd like to point out that we really, as institutions, focus on our students. We tend to be highly frugal and efficient, and we don't think a lot about how we market ourselves. I'm so pleased that during the years of President Obama's administration, his work and obviously Senator Baldwin and Dr. Jill Biden also focusing more and more attention on the two-year institutions and community colleges in this country. I think that's gone a long way to get people into the conversation who maybe would not have considered it before.
Great. And if I could just agree as well, I think that, you know, many people said it, but I couldn't agree more with the point I believe Dr. Perkins made about these are the schools, that these are high-quality public institutions that often are serving first-generation students. So if we really are thinking about, you know, in our campaign we talk a lot about debt-free college and really making sure that people's aspirations in higher ed aren't weighed down by debt. But if we're going to get there, we need to make sure that we're getting people into these high-quality public institutions and on the right track in the higher education system. And I think the place to start is with the institutions that are really serving those first-generation students. And that's opening up our higher ed system in a way that I think is incredibly important to sort of building public support around really, you know, making this accessible for everyone again.
Terrific. Listen, it's hard to add more to what you've just said about the messaging moving forward. I actually have to take a quick reflection backwards for a moment. Yesterday, when Congressman Scott and I joined Secretary Arne Duncan to